Hello, I'm Dr. Justin Dean, a Los Angeles-based sports chiropractor, and I'm going to describe the rehab methodology and technique of dynamic neuromuscular stabilization, also known as DNS. DNS was developed in Prague by a Czech neurologist that primarily worked with kids with cerebral palsy, and he noticed that kids with developmental delay would skip certain developmental steps, such as rolling over, establishing adequate postural stabilization while on their back, and if you help them using certain points that the nervous system that was highly receptive to the nervous system called reflex locomotion points, and then eventually exercises, these kids were able to develop it at a more normal rate. Well, in the sports performance world, in professional sports, chronic pain, low back pain, or even plantar fasciitis, we take these principles of how the nervous system develops properly, and we use this technique to teach a person how to adequately control their torso. More or less, we teach someone to stabilize their diaphragm and position it vertically over the pelvic floor, and then apply this to sport. So in sports, when we start generating most of our force from the spine rather than the hips and the shoulders, injuries tend to occur. And indeed, in these rehab techniques, we teach people to transfer the force from their spine to their extremities, and they have decreased pain and increased performance, as I've done with some of the strongest men in the world and some of the fastest runners in the world in China and domestically. Once we've taught your core to be absolutely stable, and notice I'm not discussing strength, I'm not discussing endurance, I'm just talking about getting yourself in a proper position, then there's a methodology of putting yourself in specific positions of joint neutrality, which basically means that the congruency of the joint is maximal and all the muscles around the joint can work with as much ease as possible. And this is a really good position, as you can see in this video, to start training joints in a very non-traditional manner of just shortening and lengthening. We can actually start getting you in sport-specific positions, such as a runner on his side and working some running form, or a baseball pitcher laying on his side working the rotator cuff and the shoulder muscles and the core, all of it at the same time, to increase performance, decrease injury risk, and ultimately, for a painful patient, decrease pain. So if you're interested in this technique, it's one of the most powerful ones that is in sports performance today. There's not many professional sports teams that don't utilize this technique in some capacity. So reach out to me if you have any questions, and I can always, if you're not in Los Angeles, I can connect you with a provider that practices this particular technique.